Someone say Bitcoin is slow, they're usually talking about one thing: confirmation times on the blockchain. Blocks every 10 minutes, mempools clogged, fees spiking, the old picture of Bitcoin as a slow, expensive settlement layer. But there's a second truth that most headlines miss. Bitcoin itself can be the final settlement plane, while payments move at the speed of conversation. That other truth is the Lightning Network. Imagine money flowing like electrons in a circuit instead of like cars on a highway. Instead of every transaction needing to be recorded on a global ledger, people open private channels between each other, move value back and forth instantly, and only settle to the main chain when they want to finalize. That's the basic promise: instant, cheap, and private payments built on top of Bitcoin's security. To understand how Lightning makes Bitcoin fast, start with channels. Two parties lock some funds into a multi-signature contract on-chain. That's the only time the blockchain is involved for this relationship, the opening. After that, they exchange signed off-chain transactions that reassign who owns what portion of the locked funds. These transactions are instant because they don't require miners or confirmations. They're like IOUs, cryptographically enforced. When either party wants to close the channel, they broadcast the latest state to the blockchain and settle. You get finality reserved for when it matters. Everything else happens off-chain at human timescales. But Lightning isn't just pairs of friends swapping coins. It's an interconnected web of channels, a routing network. If Alice has a channel with Bob and Bob has a channel with Carol, Alice can pay Carol without opening a direct channel, as long as there's liquidity and path reliability. Payments travel across multiple channels, passing value along like a baton. This is how you get network effects. The more channels and liquidity, the more routes exist, and the faster and more reliable payments become. There are natural trade-offs. Lightning trades the guarantee of universal, immediate on-chain settlement for speed and scale. Instead of waiting for global consensus, you rely on cryptographic time locks, hashed secrets, and watchful software to prevent fraud. That's why Lightning payments use something called HTLCs, hashed time lock contracts. They ensure that the recipient can claim funds only by revealing a secret, and if something goes wrong, the sender can get their funds back after a short timeout. It's elegant because it reduces counterparty risk while enabling instant transfers. People worry about liquidity and routing. Yes, for a multi-hop payment to succeed, each channel along the path must have enough funds in the correct direction. That's a real constraint, and early Lightning networks suffered payment failures because of it. But users and services quickly found ways around these limits. Larger channels, routing nodes designed to hold liquidity, rebalancing techniques that move funds around channels without touching the main chain, and watchtowers that protect offline peers. The infrastructure evolved from DIY experiments to resilient services, and every improvement makes the network faster and more dependable. Privacy is another angle people misunderstand. Lightning is more private than on-chain transactions in some ways, and less in others. Off-chain payments don't leave a public audit trail for each transfer. That's inherently private. But the network still exposes routing information. Nodes forwarding payments see the previous and next hop, not the full path. Various privacy-enhancing techniques like onion routing borrowed from Tor encrypt the path so intermediaries learn very little. Newer proposals go even further to hide payment amounts and paths, so Lightning can be quieter and more discreet than on-chain payments, while still preserving verifiability when settlement is necessary. Fees on Lightning also flip the script. Instead of paying a one-time miner fee that scales with transaction size and network congestion, Lightning payments pay tiny routing fees for each hop. Those fees are often a fraction of a cent, sometimes negligible, sometimes higher depending on liquidity and demand. For everyday micropayments, a coffee, an article, a small tip, Lightning makes economic sense in a way on-chain Bitcoin never could. It turns money into a fluid medium for tiny value transfers that previously were impractical. What about security? Some people fear that moving off-chain reduces Bitcoin's security guarantees, but Lightning's security model is deliberate. The main chain still provides settlement and dispute resolution. If a counterparty tries to cheat, Like broadcasting an old channel state to steal funds, the honest party can present a penalty transaction to the blockchain and claim the funds. The time windows for these responses are enforced by time locks. To make this safe in practice, software wallets and services run watchtowers, third-party monitors that act as guardians and submit penalty transactions if needed. You can even run your own watchtower. The result is a system that leverages Bitcoin's security while enabling instant operations in everyday life. Adoption matters because networks are only as useful as the people connected to them. Early Lightning usage looked niche: developers, privacy enthusiasts, experimenters. But adoption has broadened. Merchants accept Lightning for low-fee payments. Services integrate it to provide near-instant withdrawals and deposits. Creators accept micropayments directly from fans. Startup ecosystems built on Lightning enable streaming payments, pay-per-article access, and tipping across social platforms. Each successful user case adds another node of utility and pushes the network toward real-world scale. There are still practical hurdles. Channel management can be technical. You need to manage inbound and outbound liquidity, avoid getting stuck with funds on the wrong side of the channel, and keep your node online or rely on custodial services. For non-technical users, custodial wallets that abstract channel mechanics away make life simpler, but they reintroduce trust. The community's answer has been hybrid: custodial services for convenience, non-custodial wallets for sovereignty, and watchtower-backed non-custodial solutions for security. The software continues to grind down the friction, and each iteration makes Lightning more accessible. Then there's the user experience, the invisible work that must be done for mainstream success. UX improvements like one-click payments, invoice automations, human-readable payment requests, and smoother liquidity management all matter. Developers are building mobile wallets that feel as simple as Venmo, but with the sovereignty of Bitcoin. The challenge is to offer simplicity without sacrificing the core values that brought people to Bitcoin in the first place: censorship resistance, final settlement, and self-custody. Let's talk about scale. Bitcoin's on-chain capacity is limited by design. It's a settlement layer meant to be secure and scarce. Lightning multiplies throughput by moving most transactions off-chain. Because channel updates are local, the network can support millions of transactions per second in principle, limited only by the number of channels and routing efficiency, not by block size. That's the transformative claim. Bitcoin plus Lightning becomes a monetary network that can handle the daily flows of commerce while still anchoring final settlement to a decentralized store of value. Critics will point to centralization risks, big routing hubs, custodial services, and the possibility that certain nodes control significant liquidity. These are valid concerns. Any scaling solution can produce concentration if the incentives favor it. But Lightning's architecture is permissionless. Anyone can run a node, open channels, and compete. The economics of routing fees, reputational risks, and technical diversity encourage decentralization. Moreover, innovations like multipath payments, splitting a payment across several routes, and automatic channel rebalancing reduce dependency on single hubs. The network is still young, and vigilance is necessary, but the trend is toward more resilience and distribution. From a philosophical standpoint, Lightning flips our mental model of money. Instead of treating every transfer as a permanent, visible ledger entry, payments become ephemeral, private, and immediate until you choose to anchor them. That changes how we think about transactions. Microtransactions become possible, streaming value becomes practical, and money regains the speed of speech. For people who grew up expecting digital payments to be instant, Lightning closes the gap between expectation and reality while preserving Bitcoin's core promise. There's also a narrative about permission and inclusion. In places where banking rails are expensive or slow, Lightning offers a low-cost alternative. Mobile phones become payment terminals. Remittances can flow with tiny fees. Merchants can accept international payments without onerous settlement delays. That's not a promise of immediate global revolution, but it's a real, incremental improvement with measurable impact where traditional finance is failing. Looking forward, the roadmaps are rich. Better privacy layers, more robust routing protocols, smarter wallets that manage liquidity behind the scenes, and deeper integration with merchant systems. Technical proposals like watchtower improvements, trampoline routing, and splicing channels without on-chain closure keep landing as viable upgrades. Each of these makes Lightning more usable, secure, and integrated into everyday life. So where does this leave the average person? If you want instant payments with low fees for everyday things, Lightning is the practical answer. If you care about final settlement and censorship-resistant storage of value, Bitcoin's main chain still matters, and that's where your savings should be anchored. The two layers are complementary: Lightning for movement, Bitcoin for settlement. When combined, they create a monetary system that is both fast and final, flexible and trustworthy. If you haven't tried Lightning yet, the simplest path is a user-friendly mobile wallet. Top it up from an exchange or an on-chain wallet, try paying a Lightning-enabled merchant, or send a tip to a creator. You'll feel the speed immediately, and you'll see how small fees unlock new use cases. If you're a power user, run a node, provide liquidity, and help the network route payments. Every channel you open makes the system stronger. In the end, the headline "Bitcoin is slow" only tells half the story. It describes one layer of the system in isolation. But Bitcoin as a whole is not just a blockchain, it's an ecosystem built in layers, each doing what it does best. Lightning is the layer that makes Bitcoin feel like money for everyday life, instant, cheap, and private. That's not a marketing slogan, it's an engineering reality unfolding in real time. So yes, Bitcoin is fast now, if you let it be. Not by rewriting the rules of the base layer, but by building a second layer that moves at human speed, while keeping settlement anchored to something immutable and trustworthy. That's the truth about Lightning. It's not a replacement for Bitcoin's security, it's an extension of it, one that finally lets value move as quickly as we talk about it.